Semester arrives, we take a look back on everything we've learned throughout the course. First off, the content we'll be covering in this video. Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3, and Unit 4. Also our conclusions on how everything ended and what we've learned thus far. What did we learn? We'll explain the lessons learned during the construction management course. It will be covering the creation of a company, the permits required in order to make a project, the fundamentals of management and planning, and the progress control that must be implemented during the execution of a project. Also, various scenarios will be discussed to better understand the necessary process, and presentation will also explain how direct and indirect costs are calculated, and finally, it will address the knowledge gained through the construction site visits. In Unit 1, we learned the difference between administration and management and how everything must be working. Administration, it involves organizing and directing resources to maximize business efficiency. It is a cycle and can be done by an accountant. Management, we strategically intervene to ensure that things go well. It involves knowledge of material, procedures, and costs. Of course, more than administration, it must be done successfully in order to better progress on a project. The administrative cycle consists in 6 steps. First off, the planning. What are we doing? Organization. How are we going to do it? Directing. Who will do it? It's basically appointing a person to a task. Execution. When and where will it happen? Monitoring, control, and evaluation. Review execution. Making sure everything's going up to code. And continuous improvement. Assess success and shortcomings. First off, we created a business. It's a simulation of a real company with a mission, a vision, and a statement that let us understand how everything must be managed. A company must have values, these being well-being, innovation, and empathy, harmony, and sustainability. This helps us to forward understand how a company must be going, and it's a guideline for the company's behavior. Everything must be going up to code and in a direct line towards an end point. For that, we created an organogram. This is a visual tool that helps understand everyone's roles within the company and what do they manage. We create a CFO, a director in marketing and sales, director in innovation, direction in operations, and a human resources uh, person in charge. The services in this company gave were design, remodeling, and consulting. In Unit 2, we take a look at the regulations and governing construction, the alignments that defines the limit of the land where we can build, and it gives us an official number that helps us know where everything is being done. Segregation is the separation of the part of property from a new one that requires administrative licenses. Land uses licenses that are general or specific. One land must be used for people to live in, while another one must be only be used for a business. Feasibility then allows the legal, the economic, and environmental feasibility issued by municipal public services and environmental organizations, and construction licenses authorized by local governments and urban planning departments. Security and civil protection. These are the guys that help us know that everything's going up to code and safety standards. And the technical documentation, the architectural project, everything that's involved. This being sketches, blueprints, dimensions of every area we're building, and also helps understand how cost and cost must work. The key authorities, municipal or city councils, they're in charge of land usage and construction licenses. Technical organizations like Ministry of Environment and public services organizations such as water and electricity. And the technical criteria takes a look at cost and cost, as I mentioned earlier. These are the land occupation coefficient and the land efficiency coefficient. Calculating the densities and basis on local regulations. This helps us understand how many square meters we can build and how many levels a project must have. Application of coefficients, cost, occupation of floor, and cost, occupation or utilization of that floor. We created a second company to further understand how the laws and regulations of construction works. In this case, we made it through a contest. The basis of the contest helps us understand how everything must be done, and that it is a guideline for us to further understand if we're working towards a project and if we're following everything that the client is asking us to cover. Also, we cover a budget payment, which helps the client decide whether or not our project is feasible. In this, we also submit cost and costs or the usage we're having this project, the land we're creating, the land we're using, the square meters we're building, and the required documents to that forwards us to the completion of the project. And the activity calendar, well, it helps us to manage our time and know that everything's going to be done within the time we need it to be done. In Unit 3, we take a look more into the specific part of the project and a more technical one. Also, we take a look at visual tools that helps us understand how we must manage resources and times. Um, we take a look at the critical path. There are two types of critical path, the PERT and the CPM one. The PERT method controls the execution times of the various activities in the project, ensuring each is completed within the available time, while the CPM method aims to the control of and optimization of cost through the planning and scheduling cycles. Planning and scheduling the project is defined, activities are defined, the sequences and timelines are established, and the activity network is built. It ends with all individuals involved in the project agree on the plan and the execution control. The plan activities are carried out by constant adjust or made to better adopt the plan. It ends with the final activity of the project being completed. These are visual tools that helps understand how everyone must be working, with whom they must be working, and the time they must be working at. Also, it manages the resources and how these things may interact with one another, but they must not affect the other. These are types of slack in this critical path: the total slack, the free slack, the interference slack, and the independent one. And we'll last take a look at the Excel. The Excel project was a tool that helps understand how we must manage a project with time and budget. First off, we were given a certain amount and for a project with estimates and divided by weeks. This case being 10 weeks and a 35% of down payment. Each task, this being 5 tasks, must be completed within the right amount of budget. The percentage of the budget must be divided correctly, and the project must be divided within 10 weeks, depending on how much each task must take. The project progress control helps us understand whether or not we're following set plan. We take a look at the money we've received so far and the percentage of the work we've managed to accomplish thus far, and is divided within 4 estimations, these being the payments we were going to receive. Also, with a settlement at the end that helps understand uh, if we completed it within the time. These must add up to 100% or the total amount of the contract that we were given. Scenario 1, the weekly estimation with amortization and advance payment. It's divided within 10 weeks, and we take a look whether or not we're being following correctly every part of the work. And it lets us know whether or not we're going slow or fast, and we'll be using our resources efficiently. Scenario 1. It's divided. We use at the graphs. The graph is a visual tool that helps us understand whether or not we've been following set plan before. As we can see here, the programmed or scheduled project was going to be delivered within 10 weeks. However, the real one shows that the work's being done in 12 weeks. But however, it takes in consideration that the first week we didn't receive any kind of payment. So it sets us back somehow, uh, and it allows to understand how we've been managing our resources. And the graph shows us whether or not we've been efficient with the resources within this specific time frame. In the scenario 2, the percentage estimation with amortization of advance payment and a 10% retention. In here, we take a look back at everything we've done as we saw in scenario 1 and whether or not we've been following it. It's very specific, but this time we count with a 10% retention. And we see how it may affect us in the endpoint in the use of a graph. Now, this being the real one is the work we've been managing to accomplish within the time frame. In the graph, it shows us that it's not a procedural growth, but a staggered one, which shows us that the work being done has been going on differently. Master.
My name is Mucio and I'm going to talk about Unit 4. To begin this unit, we studied the construction industry in Mexico, which basically talks about making more efficient and better functioning process in the construction industry. Then I made this diagram, which help us to understand these infographics better. I divided in five subtopics, which are then subdivided by content, what we learned, and the conclusion. Then we learned about the importance of making a portfolio and the right way to do it. For example, in this slide, I put the front page of mine, in which I wanted to achieve a minimal design, which was easy to understand, and that's why I just left the text in English, that is the blue one, and the text in Spanish, that is the gray one. Then we jump right into our content. And in this case, I put a spread of my portfolio. In the left part, we can see this render, which is very protagonistic of the project. And in the right part, we can see some information as well as the specifics of the project and some architectural plans. Then we have these cost calculations, which we learn how to do it. Um, these are very important because sometimes as architects we don't know how to charge our client. So these are made by having all these parameters such as the type of the project, the type of finishes, the square meters, and the utility we want to profit. Then in this slide we place the same table but adding a little bit of financing as well as the months tied with the inflation monthly. In this case, we have 4.6, which helped us to review if it's valid with the percentages we have in order to have a better margin. And this is the final part of this exercise in which we have two scenarios. In the first one, we are missing the direct cost. And in the second one, we are missing the indirect cost, in which we have to make a rule of three. This in order to achieve these results.
Now we take a look at the construction site visits, the Casa Concretera and the AMDC Tower. First off, with Casa, it's a company that's dedicated to making concrete. In this case, they showed us the diameter of the gravel they use, the mixture they use, and an engineer showed us his procedure into making this efficiently. He first off showed us by showing us how much of the amounts of each component he needs to make into the mixture, and in case of failure in the computer, he can do it manually. Then they showed us how every single batch they create is tested in resistance, and it gives us an assurance that everything they make is up to the highest quality standards. In the Death Tower, it was a different story. We saw how it was being made, how the reinforcement wall was next to a construction already being made, and the whole process on how they did the development, everything on site. It showed us how the ingenuity and in the engineering side of a construction in such a scale as this one. And lastly, our conclusions on the semester. What did we learn? We take a look back at not only everything we learned, but also how we applied it. And we realize we're now capable of looking at our career from a point of view that's not easy to grasp. We now both have the knowledge and the tools to direct the administration and in construction. It's not an easy task. However, if we're capable to use our knowledge and our organization skills, we're not only going to achieve our goals, in the proper time, but we will also be able to create a team that will surpass their own expectations and achieve everything the way we intend to. And how can it help us? Well, like we mentioned, it'll help us with achieving the goals we set. Ourselves and our team, we're now capable of creating tasks within a time frame and organize our resources to further achieve our goals. We're now capable for using our tools and existing formulas and it further accomplish our work. But all the tools are nothing without an architect or an engineer capable of taking full advantage of the knowledge we use. For your time, we thank you. Goodbye.